How are you today? The improved package has arrived. We're having it fitted in time for FP1. Have a look at the factory report.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to my F1 2017 Career Mode, episode number 95 today for the Malaysian Grand Prix in Season 5. We come here with the brand new part fitted to our car that we purchased at the end of last episode, episode number 94. If you did miss that, by the way, be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. So the further chassis weight reduction, which should help out here around Malaysia. Obviously, high-speed corners, so having a lighter car, a tad lighter car, obviously a minor upgrade only, but having a slightly lighter car should help. And Malaysia has generally been quite a difficult circuit for myself, you know, not got a lot of pace, especially through that second last corner, which in general is already known as one of the toughest corners in Formula 1 on the game, and for me personally, very, very tough, and it's not going to really change, is it? I don't think, for this season in its fifth iteration, but we go through the practice programs trying to earn as many points as we can, as, you know, even the fact that we only have 5 races left after this one, still we can push on and maybe purchase some minor upgrades here and there. But before we go on to qualifying, we got a brand new rival actually, and it's Nico Hülkenberg for the first time, I think I want to say. I don't think I've ever had him as a rival, and of course that's a pretty damn tough rival. He's won 2 races in the last 4 rounds, so he's a pretty tough rival to have. So it's I think we'll probably end up losing that rivalry. I would probably think, although obviously it will spill into next season, as obviously we've only got 5 rounds left and the rivalry gets settled pretty much over the course of about half a season worth of races. So we move into Q1 then, and as usual, I mean, you've heard it before from me, the usual arguments and complaints of qualifying at places like Malaysia and Australia. That damn sunlight and the sun coming down, you know, it's beautiful to look at in the replay cameras. Not so much when you're driving. I absolutely hate the sun glare. You just can't see where you're going into some of these corners, into the apex. It's like a blind brake zone, so very tricky to, you know, get through the session basically, and I was even scared of mucking up Q1, to be honest, so hopefully we can get through. Navigating to that second last corner, pretty okay, I guess you could say, opening DRS, and this is where we can gain some time, obviously, down these 2 main, the back straight and then the pit straight is where we're going to find a lot of time, obviously, with the Mercedes engine, as we can see one of the McLaren Hondas just up ahead going through the last corner. A bit of shimmy and shake on the exit for good measure, but we come across the line. At the moment, it's P8 then, and it is going to stay like that. You can see our teammate doing well in P5. A couple of people like Vettel and Bottas opting for the soft tyres, and the 2 Red Bulls, 1-2 at the moment in Q1, so looking very good. We move on to Q2, and hallelujah, it is overcast in Q2. I was so overjoyed by that, but you can see there's a good reason for that. It's actually starting to rain. I've gone out as early as possible because I saw the indicator for the weather was going to show it was going to rain later in this session, so that meant that probably inters were needed by the time Q2 ends, so I want to get my lap in early, but it's already starting to rain pretty substantially to the point where, you know, we see a few spits of rain on our screen, and it's already going to be maybe a little bit damp by the time we come through to the end of the lap. I mean, you can see going through there, just randomly get a spurt of splatter of rain on our screen, and by the time we get to the end of the lap, we've got rain droplets flowing down, so it's already getting to that switchover period. So it's pretty much a case of hoping this lap time is good enough, and it's our one and only attempt pretty much, because it's just going to get wetter and wetter. It's P5 for now, so very, very decent, although slower than Verstappen on soft tyres, but by the time we come through to a second flying lap then, we're down to P13. I went out anyway, desperate to maybe try and find time, but before we even start the flying lap, you can see losing all sorts of grip, and we go off the circuit, and it's very clear I'm not going to even find the time to even make it up, and unfortunately, that is the end of our qualifying. P14 indeed. Really, really frustrating. Really frustrating. I was disappointed with P10 back at the Belgium Grand Prix. Even more so with this. This is unfortunate, and you know, I can only blame myself. I just didn't do the job on that first flying lap. It was dry enough to get in a decent enough lap time. Perez did the job there in P5. I just haven't, so I need to make it up in the race, unfortunately, which I'm confident we can. We've come from worse back, remember, season 3, was it, in the Renault? Obviously, we're way down the order then, and we're fighting Vettel when we came back then, so I guess we're just going to have to try that again. But as we move on into the race, into the sequence before the race, you can see it is damp at the moment, so we're going to start off the Malaysian Grand Prix on the intermediates. I didn't get a chance to run in the wet in practice or qualifying around here in this car around Malaysia, so I have no idea what my pace is going to be like in the Force India around Malaysia. Obviously, I know what it was like in the Renault. It was okay, but I just don't know about the Force India. If we take Singapore and Monza as kind of a judgment, this could go either way, honestly. So we're just going to have to see. Let's go to the full grid sequence, and then we'll just wing it, really, and see how far up the order we can go.
We're almost ready to go then, and this is what the starting grid looks like for today's race. Valtteri Bottas lines up on pole position, and Kimi Raikkonen completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Vettel, Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, and Ricciardo, Hülkenberg, Palmer, Massa, and Roman Grosjean. Magnussen, Kvyat, Sergio Perez, and a Force India, Sainz, Stroll, Fernando Alonso, and Stoffel van Dorn, Wehrlein, and Marcus Ericsson rounds off the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
So here we are on the starting grid then, and funnily enough, our teammate Sergio Perez has enough engine penalties before this race to be starting right next to us on the starting grid, which is, well, I guess funny for us in a way, but also not great in terms of if he was further ahead, obviously we'd do better than the constructors. But hey-ho, at least we have some company then, in a familiar company, I guess you could say, from our usual top 10 slots. But you can see the race is going to start off in the intermediate conditions, but it is going to dry up about halfway through this race. So there will be potential to maybe perform a little bit better on the slick period if we don't perform in these inters conditions. But anyway, here we go then towards 5 red lights to the Malaysian Grand Prix, round number 15 of season 5, and the lights are out and we're underway here, and it's a bit of a gingerly start there in second gear, trying to get the power down as fast as we can, but Perez has got a much better run towards turn 1. The same can be said of our former teammate Carlos Sainz as he shoots it down the inside. We're going to follow him through. Oh my god, Carlos Sainz up into 9th place. That is a bonkers first turn there for himself, and we've kind of followed him through and tried to basically piggyback off his success there, and we're up into P11, just about having to squeeze past Felipe Massa after initially losing some speed in turns 2, and now Roman Grosjean, who's been squeezed out by Carlos Sainz, is going to get penned in here. We're going to try our best to just nip it to the inside and force our way past. It's going to be close on the exit, bit of a tank slapper there, opposite lock, having to work away and shimmy across on the steering wheel, but we've made it work, and myself and Carlos Sainz are up into the top 10 then. So the old team are back from season 1. It's almost kind of beautiful in a way, poetic, that myself and Sainz are making our way up quite beautifully at the moment on the first lap of the Grand Prix. But it's all time. It's all time to be over. No more Mr. Nice Guy here. We need to overtake Sainz very rapidly. We've got a much better car than his, and we need to get moving on then. So thank you very much, Carlos. But now your job's done. We're up into P9, and we can chase after this pack at the moment. That's a tail ended by Julian Palmer. Then I believe it looks like to be Daniel Ricciardo in a bit of a sandwich there between the Mercedes and his teammate Max Verstappen. Meanwhile, for the lead of this Grand Prix, it's actually Kimi Raikkonen who leads the way, my championship rival, so not great for us for him to be leading. And so great to see Nico Hülkenberg go around the outside of him into turn 1. It's a bold place to hang it to the outside because it's a long way around. Only till now do you maybe get an advantage to be on the inside for turn 2, but then again it's so easy to get pinched into the apex, and Kimi tries to do that, but Hülkenberg pulling through still. He's got his nose just about ahead of his rear tyre, Hülkenberg does, so he's going to keep his elbows out there, and he's actually got it. And then as he goes into the end of sector 1, surely this will be it. Squeeze Raikkonen towards the apex then, and Kimi has to let that position go, and it's a fantastic little sequence of corners then, and a good move for the lead of the Grand Prix by Nico Hülkenberg. So Kimi down to P2, and then it was closely behind actually Sebastian Vettel, who closed up quite a bit then, as obviously both Raikkonen and Hülkenberg lost each other time by going side by side for so long, especially in the wet conditions. That just elevates it so much more when you're going side by side with cars, because you're going that much slower on the lower speed corners. Now we move on to lap 5 now, so and not too much has happened since the opening few laps. Just trying to push hard as we can to close up here, taking a wider line to try and get the power down earlier off that second turn, and up into the end of sector 1 it was looking like a bit of a gap was forming, but then Ricciardo makes a mistake here, holds up Palmer, so we have opportunity here to go around the outside of Jolien, maybe try and overtake Ricciardo. Maybe we have a bit of a look, doesn't work out. We've gone wide though, and that's compromised our run into the next right-hander, and Palmer will be right there maybe to take us back. We have to go a little bit wayward on the curbing and slow it all down, but then the next double right-hander, I get it all crossed up there, go way too deep to that corner, and Palmer simply swipes right back into place into P8, and we're back to P9. So very tricky conditions, and I kind of bottled that one there, you know, given a chance to have a free position on the Renault after Ricciardo locked up and just overcooked it into the double right-hander. So tricky stuff, you know. That's why nothing really happened from lap 2 to 5, because I was just pushing flat out to try and catch that train. And to be fair to that entire train of Palmer, Ricciardo, Verstappen, Bottas and Hamilton, they all had some very, very decent pace. I was unable to catch up to them. Whereas Sergio Perez, our teammate, after a poor start initially, after obviously me and Sainz dived it into the inside of turn 1, he stayed put behind in around P15. He's now been coming slowly back in this Grand Prix, and he'll try and go around the outside of Romain Grosjean. And on the same lap, just up the road, I've taken inspiration from that, and I'm going to try and get this job done now on Julian Palmer. We maybe look to the inside, doesn't work out, but you can see on the top left, Perez is past Romain Grosjean then through that final corner, and he's behind us now in P10. So that's kind of a sign for me to get a move on here. So I tried to make something work into turn 1, didn't quite work out, but we've got a good exit, kind of, I guess you could say, going a little bit opposite lock, but we've got a good enough exit to maybe pressurise Palmer going into sector 2, but Perez getting up into 10th place right behind me after such a poor start for him in lap 1 has kind of got me kind of, riled up. I need to get going now. I need to desperately overtake Palmer as fast as I can, and again, trying, but just getting held up there, brake checked somewhat into that next left-hander, and unfortunately it takes us to the next lap, but this time I'm not taking no for an answer here. We're getting this move done now on towards lap 8, and we're going to go into turn 1, dive to the inside there from quite a while back, and we're going to give Palmer the room, and actually we're making that move very, very nicely, and it's actually done before we even get towards turn 2. So we had the pace that time round, thankfully. Now we can get right on the back of Daniel Ricciardo, maybe squirming around as actually the track constantly from this point onwards, pretty much you can see the clouds around, dispersing and the sun peeking through a little bit. You can see that blue sky. It's getting dry and dry. We close up to Ricciardo, who's had a poor entry to sector 2, getting held up somewhat by the Mercedes car, and we tried to pull it around the outside, didn't quite work, got on the curbing, which was probably a silly error to make, and so we have to stick behind right now at the moment. But you can see just ahead of Ricciardo that Mercedes not too far behind as well, not too far ahead as well, and then also in the distance is Verstappen and Hamilton. So we've got a potential 4 places maybe to gain later on this Grand Prix. The safety car gets called out then on lap 8 due to Kevin Magnussen being out of this Grand Prix then. Unfortunate timing actually, because it's been quite annoying, because I think by the time the safety car comes in, I think it may be time for the slicks, because you can see how much the sun is now peeking through, and so a bit of a dramatic engine failure for Kevin Magnussen, literally smoking up flames in the last sector there, and pulls across into that runoff area, and actually tragedy for Pascal Wehrlein. Under the safety car, he has an engine failure into turn 1, so 2 engine failures within the span of 3 laps there, but ultimately probably a bit more of a kick in the teeth for Pascal Wehrlein. He just about caught up to the safety car train and then has an engine failure straight away, so yeah, unfortunate for him. But now the safety car is coming in this lap, and as I mentioned, I think a lot of us are going to come straight in for the slick tyres, I think, and you can see a whole load of people do come in. I'm going to come in as well. It's going to be Verstappen in, I think Hamilton that is in ahead, and my teammate Sergio Perez thankfully stays out, so we're not going to crisscross each other and hold each other up in the pit lane there. But we're going to come on for a set of super soft tyres I'm going to go for, and we're going to go quite aggressive and try and see how those work out for us. But hopefully we don't get held up too much. Obviously there's a huge gaggle of cars in the pit lane here, so we may just get held up. Yes, we do. Our car just sits there, and we have to wait, and only now do we get released. So that's really unfortunate, and we're literally nearly at the back end of the pack now, with only Alonso, the Toro Rosso and Haas behind us, but we've fallen behind Felipe Massa, I think that is, and also some other cars up ahead, so we're going to have to try and overtake. There is Kimi Raikkonen, actually. Raikkonen just ahead of Massa, so actually we're not too far away from our championship rival, but we are down the order now, and I think it's still rather slippery, so really maybe it could have been worth staying out for one more lap, but you can say a lot of stuff in hindsight then. Massa on the soft tyres, Alonso on the super soft, so I'm going the same way as Fernando at least, but with Massa on the soft tyres, I would like to think we can catch up to Massa pretty rapidly, so let's try and do that. But as you can see on lap 12, still very, very slippery at the moment, with the rain coming down. The droplets kind of stop around here in this sector, so it's kind of maybe stopping, the rain's kind of stopping here predominantly compared to the other places, but it still is very, very slippery. And that point's going to be proven right about now on the left-hander and the right. We have a huge, huge slide in 5th gear and have to drift the car back into the corner, and that's been the biggest kind of heart and mouth moment I've had since Italy, pretty much, when we made that opposite lock save. That was a huge slide, but a pretty huge save as well to keep it through and still be kind of somewhat near Felipe Massa. And by the time we move on to the next lap, lap 13, through the first turn, you can see Palmer back ahead of us now in this race. So really, me coming in on the previous lap did not help out. Actually, I probably should have stayed out for one more lap. But either way, we're going to try and make the move around the outside of Felipe Massa now. He kind of cuts the corner as we enter sector 2. We go on the outside, on the curbing somewhat, as the rain's still there on the curb. So we slide about on the exit a little bit, but we still hold it through. And we're up into P7 now. But yeah, we have lost the place to Palmer, unfortunately, which is a shame because we have to try and re-overtake him. But let's look at another replay, just because look how crazy this slide was. That is insane. That is drifting an F1 car at like 150 miles per hour. That is absolutely awesome. Like, watching it back, it's freaking insane. doing it at the time was literally so scary because I thought that was going to be it. I was going to bin it into the gravel. So well held, if I do say so myself. But now we move up into P6 this is, and it's going to be due to Lewis Hamilton retiring out of this Grand Prix, then parks it up into turn 1 with an engine failure of his own in the same place as Pascal Wehrlein, or just a mechanical failure, looks like maybe. No engine smoke coming out the back of that car, but nearly in the same place where Hamilton parked it up in real life in 2016, of course, the Malaysian Grand Prix. But now we come through into the pit lane, lap 20, with 8 laps to go. Our super soft tyres are going off, so it's time to come in for our final pit stop of the afternoon and the race for a second set of super soft. This will be, as I feel like we could go aggressive enough. Yes, there will be some pretty poor tyre wear right at the end of this race, but I think it may be worth just a bit of a gamble to maybe try and push us along and try and get some last few places. But yeah, it looks like a lot of people might be trying to go to the end on their set of soft or medium tyres, I don't know, depending on what they've got on, which is a little bit frustrating maybe. But obviously at the time you just can't call it ahead of time. We just didn't know what was going to happen, what the tyre was going to really be like on the Force India around Malaysia. We come out right behind Sebastian Vettel on soft tyres then. I think Vettel's now going to the end of this race, so at least we're near a Ferrari car. At least it's the wrong one for us, for our sake, but let's just go ahead and try and overtake him if we can. We move on to the end of lap 21 on towards lap 22, and the sun is now completely peeking out on the main straight. Dan Ricciardo setting the fast lap of the Grand Prix, so the Red Bulls are now coming back at maybe the race leaders of Nico Hülkenberg, and I believe Raikkonen's up there in the podium positions, and we try to maybe have a little bit of a look around the outside. Doesn't work out, so for now just closing up on Vettel, and we're going to maybe have to wait until later on, maybe onto the next lap to maybe make a move. And so speaking about that, we move on to lap 23 now. DRS and Rich Mick's gone, and we're rapidly closing in into turn 1 to the inside of Sebastian. He gives us the room, to be fair to him, and we're going to go right round the outside of him on turn 2, and that is such a satisfying move. We just had complete grip over him, so a much better turn, much better exit, and he had nothing to defend with against us there round the outside. And so we're up into P7, and we'll see if we can maybe chase down Ricciardo, although he did set the fast lap of the Grand Prix earlier on. And so as we go on to the end of lap 26, so last few laps left in this race, and Vettel coming on a charge in sector 3, being poor through that second last corner once again, as I mentioned earlier on in the episode, where we have been poor against the AI pretty much since the start of this game back in August. And Vettel down the inside of the final corner, he's up ahead. We're going to have to try and get back in his slipstream. He's got DRS crucially still, he's got a second bite of the cherry, so this is going to have to be pure slipstream now. We pull to the right, we're going to have to brake as late as we dare. We've got Rich Mix going, but we don't have too much fuel to burn. We're going to try and keep our nose in there. Again, hang it to the outside. This time, though, we don't have the grip to pull it around the outside. Instead, we have to brake a little bit earlier. We do a bit of a switchback move, essentially, and go to the left-hand side of the circuit, sparking away. Vettel just about manages to give us enough room on the left to work with there, and we are going to get back up ahead of him there. A little bit of a squirm on the exit as we enter sector 2, but we need to be a little bit careful now of our fuel, because I think we're a little bit crucial on the fuel. You can see going lean mixture, trying to save up enough rich mix basically just to use it on this straight, as again Vettel comes back at us now. This time though we're defending to the inside line of the last corner. Vettel on the outside, but he's still going to have some decent pace to pull it through, and we try and give him the space, but also try and squeeze him, but on the exit getting a bit too eager on the throttle sends us a little bit left, and so we have to tuck back in again. He has DRS and we don't down this main straight, so just rich mix, just our straight line speed naturally, and we have to go the long way round into turn 1. It's going to be a sharp then left-handed to turn 2, a lock up and a bit of contacts made there as it gets a little bit frosty between myself and Vettel, former rivals obviously, battling for the championship from season 3 back in my Renault days. We go side by side, so close to him on the right hand side. A little bit more contacts probably made on the sidewall of the tyre around the outside, but a tank slapper on the exit, getting the power down a bit too early, and Vettel's come back at us now. He's got ahead, but he's crucially gone wide now, so I'm going to brake a little bit earlier, go a little bit tighter on the line. 6th gear then to the inside, switchback move made on him, and that's a textbook move there. I could see he was going wide, and we just have to be patient there that time, and we're up into 7th, although we do run a little bit wide in the same place where Palmer got us back earlier on the Grand Prix. We do hold that through at the end of the next corner, and as we go through the final corner then on the last lap of the Grand Prix, Nico Hülkenberg has won the Malaysian Grand Prix, and we're going to come home for P7 then, just ahead of Sebastian Vettel. A hard fought 7th place there, but Hülkenberg, what a race for him, another great one. Obviously overtook Raikkonen earlier on in the race, and there is Raikkonen probably on the podium. He's going to be joined there Obviously, Hulkenberg has been doing a fantastic job. I've been saying it so far quite a few times that he's on a charge, and he's been pretty damn consistent, probably apart from like a few couple of races here and there. And if he keeps on going like this, well, he's going to be a threat. But Raikkonen there looks to be, I think he got 3rd place, so 15 points ahead of us. Obviously, we get a few for 7th place. So all in all, could have been worse, but it could have been a lot better. But you got to consider, remember, we were P15 on the starting grid. So really, I can't complain too much. We should have done the job in qualifying, and that's why we've been kind of resigned here. Although in hindsight, if I maybe stuck on the soft tyres or the mediums maybe, when we went to the slick tyres, we could have maybe took that through to the end of the Grand Prix instead of making that extra pit stop. But you can see everyone did a 2-stop. So it's not like I made an extra pit stop actually. I just maybe chose the wrong compound. Maybe I should have gone with soft tyres instead of 2 sets of super softs. But you can see there, I lose the lead of the Drivers' Championship by 2 points now to Raikkonen. Hulkenberg climbs up to 3rd place in the championship and is not too far off. So again, Hulkenberg's just got to continue it. He's been winning one race, then not winning the other, then winning the next one. If he just wins two in a row, maybe, I think he would have some real good consistency and a chance to actually be a big threat for the championship late on here. But as we move on to the end of the episode then, probably to your guys' surprise, we actually end up buying a minor upgrade for the engine power, because I just didn't see any other reason to buy any other upgrades. They're all major ones, and I didn't have the points actually to afford a major one anyway. So I thought I may as well do it, because you can't not have enough engine power. And then also looking at the chart, actually Red Bull looked to have got ahead of us on engine power, ironically and kind of surprisingly. So I thought may as well be a good thing to maybe match them back on engine power with our Mercedes power unit in the back of the car. So that's what we've got going on, and that'll come actually next episode for the Japanese Grand Prix. So guys, if you have enjoyed this episode though, smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're out here to get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content, I've been aarava. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.